to start providing the goods and services that we desire, that serve us as human beings and not as complacent people to just get more of the same. That's one idea.
Well, I agree with you in general. I also think, you know, a large centralized system, even if it's giving us the goods we want, we have to diffuse that power, take it back to local levels and other levels too, to kind of reinstate a balance of power. But where do you see the larger awakening going?
Well, I think that it's already taking place. I just think that there's so much co-option that's collaborating with the evolution of our thought process. It's really hard to decipher through and see what's real and what isn't. You know, like the Middle East, the whole uprise that's taking place over there over the past few years, it's hard to tell whether that's being induced by the CIA or by MI5 or KGB or whoever it might be. It's hard to tell if it's just over oil and we're trying to prevent China from having access to Africa or the Middle East oil. It's so hard to tell what's what, but we do need more people to rise up. And it's not, I've come to a point where it's not about a violent revolution anymore even. It's really just about people just shifting their focus and no longer buying into what we don't want. I mean, maybe we will have a violent revolution one day, but until that happens, I think there's a lot of things we could be trying to do. And we got to stop allowing the system to put blocks in front of us, like electric vehicles or cleaner water filtration systems or solar power or wind generation. Like, these ideas get so much heat and so much resistance. And we know this stuff is good for us. And then they tell us some BS of why we can't have it, and we just put up with that. And I think that there's a lot of, you know, when George Bush won the first time, I was shocked that nobody stood up and had a major shutdown of society. You know, we got lied to. We continue to get lied to, but we continuously allow them to lie to us. And I'm dying to see people get out their jobs, get out their daily schedule, walk out in the street and stop taking it. I mean, I think everyone wants that, desires that. My mother always wished that so much, you know. But the Occupy movement is pretty interesting. It's pretty beautiful to see that happen. And it's just frustrating to see how it all falls apart and how people end up going back to their normal ways of thinking and being. And I think that comes from the programming, you know, and it's like, it's really important to look into deeper subject matter and to deafen one's own views on stuff and stop expecting the media to just deliver what we need to know. You know, it's like I'm getting my daily report on how I should behave. And that's got to end.
Right, and we see also these kind of revolutionary ideas being hijacked in a steam vent kind of way. Opposition to Bush, for instance, against the war, will be voiced first on the outside of the Democratic Party, but eventually absorbed by it, touted by them in rhetoric, but then it ends up not being the real system by the time Barack Obama gets elected.
Yeah, really perplexing, you know. And I mean, it makes me angry, and I'm just curious if anyone else out there is angry because it's just I'm just baffled by it. You know, I didn't choose, or I don't think my mother chose to have a child. I don't think my father chose to have a child to grow up like any of us. None of our parents chose for us to grow up into a polluted, screwed up, politically confused reality. It doesn't make sense. And it's really screwed up for so many of us that we are now at this point where, you know, I think about, I'd love to have a child in the future. I don't have any kids, but I have to think about that constantly. What type of a world am I going to leave my child in if I have one? And that's a heavy thought to think about. You know, I wonder how many people out there just picking out kids left and right that don't think about that. And that's another scary thought, you know. Our priorities are really screwed up. I think we need a priority check around here. September 11th was the wrong way to wake us up. That's not doing it, you know. We need something much more powerful. And, you know, that's why people like me and people who I'm influenced by, that I'm really interested in, such as yourselves, You know, it's important that we continue to do this because I know that it's inspiring to other people. I know it inspired me as a child, and I hope that I'm inspiring people right now, and I hope to continue to inspire people to think differently, to think outside the system.
And artwork's obviously very powerful. I was going to ask you that too, because you're kind of talking about your political inspirations. You've talked about all your artistic inspirations. How has Alex Jones and other alternative voices, those who are branded conspiracy theorists, for instance, how have they affected you personally, but how also do you see them changing our cultural discussions, and which direction is that going?
Yeah, man, I mean, it is a huge influence to me. Like I said, I started off with Behold the Pale Horse, and I just moved on from there from book to book to you know, now the internet is so great. It's amazing to see that the whole world can access this information now. When I was a little kid, this information came to you on a cassette tape from some very strange people that were very paranoid and didn't want anyone to know that they gave it to you, or it came from a book, and it was like a leather-bound book that no one wanted to read. And so if you read it, everyone thought you were weird. And, you know, it just goes down the system like that of how this information has been really hard to seek and find out. And now with the internet, it's amazing to see that everything from Richard Hoagland to Zachariah Sitchin to, you know, ancient technology to secret societies and, you know, just general technology and how technology manipulates our thinking and our general living conditions. It's amazing that we have this access now. And it's a beautiful thing to see that so many of my peers are now hip to these ideas, and it's not old news, it's not weird news, it's not like unbelievable. There's a great deal of people that really know that this is what's happening, and they're woken to it. And you know, that's one of the most positive things I can say going on right now is the mass awakening of people looking towards alternatives finally. You know.
And I think with the internet, we have really a limited window to kind of solidify that we want this information outside of your limited controlled system. And I think that's the message we need to think about, how to make sure this information is permanently in the broader sector of public thought so we can work more towards what is the truth and what kind of solutions we really want to see.
Yeah, I'd say for the past 20 years, a lot of my friends and peers recognize me as a political artist, as a radical, as a rebel in a sense. And I guess my rebellion type of work that I put out has at times caused people to be like, oh, there goes Mir again, or oh, you're still on that stuff. And that was frustrating. That took me a decade and a half to get through with everyone, to the point that now they're like, oh, man, I love it when you talk about that. When you share these ideas with me now, I go and I research them and I find out so much more, and it's like, wow, it's amazing that this stuff is real. And, you know, this is just peers walking through a grocery store or walking through another city will walk up to me and say this now. And it makes me feel really great. You know, it's a great feeling to know that we actually can think this way finally, that we're not crazy, that we're not going to, you know, go to jail or be assassinated for thinking this way or be punished, you know, or lose. That there's enough of us thinking this way now. This is a social discourse that we all can take part in. I think that's really important. And I think that that's one of the main ways that this radical rebellion will eventually become, hopefully, part of our normality at a point here, is that the masses will just shift their thinking. And that's always been my greatest hope, because it's not like I wouldn't love to see some crazy revolution take place and us overthrow the institutions and tear down the walls of these horrible places and throw out these sick and twisted individuals on their rears in public and actually throw some of these people in prison for stealing from us and lying and causing great human atrocities around the world. But, I mean, I would love to see some of that. But simultaneously, I would be just as happy, if not more happy, if we could all just shift our thinking and all these manipulators would just become instant losers. I think that would be the greatest punishment and retribution we could experience.
Oh, that's the truth right there. And our cultural thinking, our spiritual awakenings, those are more powerful than trying to steer movements through the political system because they're so easily hijacked. So many revolutions have gone bad. And so in closing, talk about where we could find your work, where people could see more examples and follow the things you're doing. But more broadly, give us some tips. What have you found to be effective in the vein of culture jamming, trying to insert a message that people don't want to hear? How do you break through? What kind of symbolism is most powerful? How can we use the internet, things like Facebook, relatively controlled paradigms, to push messages they don't want to see?
Yeah, well, I guess some of the interesting stuff that I do is, you know, you can look at conspiracy theories and get freaked out over them, and then you can compare those to actual news-related write-ups from around the world. You can check out some of the interesting technology that's being researched at places like MIT out in Boston, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Just any of the iconography that's out there that seems weird and mystical and hokey, and it's almost unbelievable this could be happening. It's really interesting to go into the history and look at where these iconographies come from, what they actually meant to people a long time ago, what they mean to people now, and why are they still used? I mean, if these things are meaningless and they're just imagery and it's just old-timer stuff, then why are we still using this stuff now? Mm-hmm. I think that more than telling people what something is, I like to inspire people to do the work themselves and have their own revelations unfold. But there is plenty of access out there to basically review any of what we're talking about here online. You know, and I guess you can find more of my work on my website, which is www.mir1.com. I'm on Facebook, Mir1. I'm also on Twitter.
Just for people watching, that's spelled M-E-A-R and then the spelled out number 1.
You can check me out at www.mearone.com. That's mir1.com. I'm also Mir1 on Facebook and Twitter. You can follow me there. I want to give a big shout-out to Vapors Unite and Don Mega for posting me on INFOWARS website originally. And tomorrow night at 9 p.m., KCET will be broadcasting the Brit Week Battle LA with myself, Mir1, Man, Inky, and Ein from England. And just a big special thanks to Candace and Vestalia at Brit Week and T4C for putting it all together.
Well, we appreciate having you on, Mir1. Again, you can find his artwork at mir1.com. I know a lot of older listeners may be wondering, why are we showing kind of this street art, hip-hop culture thing? Well, people really respond to this today. It's part of the larger debate about what is language, what are these symbols, where do they come from, who defines what they mean, and it's not all the same stuff. You'll see some really uninspiring, garbage messages, but you also see a lot of conscious people using this kind of street art mentality to try to get out a message. That's why we have Mir1 on. It's very interesting. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the artwork here in the video, but do go check out his website because it's fascinating stuff. It has deep meaning, much of it, and we appreciate him being on. Don't forget planetinfowars.com. That's where you can do your own independent messaging. You could put your artwork up there. You could do videos analyzing the symbols you see in the media and a whole lot more. Don't forget to support us, too, at PrisonPlanet.tv. That's all for tonight's InfoWars Nightly News. Thanks for watching. I'm Aaron Dykes.